Volunteerism, I think, is extremely important, especially for a developing country such as Namibia. There is no way that countries like Namibia would be able to leapfrog their development unless we have people using their spare time to be able to help the society to be able to better itself. There's no way that government alone will be able to handle all the socio-economic challenges that our society faces. So it's very, very important that the citizens, young people, especially young people, use their time, use the education that they have in order to be able to give back to society, in order to be able to uplift the less fortunate in our society.
Well, volunteerism, I think, is germane to what the UN does. You know, it embodies the spirit of the United Nations. That is, being able to dedicate yourself, dedicate your time, without much consideration to material remunerations, to service of humanity. So it is really, it is what the UN does. It is the spirit embodied in the internationalism which is the United Nations. But it is also part and parcel of delivering development. Because part of what we do, you know, we do it with governments, we do it with the civil society, we do it with communities, and in most cases, you know, those who are at the center of delivering, you know, development support are not, you know, the mainstream United Nations or mainstream government. These really are people who are volunteering their work, volunteering their services, you know, to make a difference.
Volunteerism, I would say, has been there, you know, time immemorial. You know, people would actually volunteer their services without necessarily expecting anything to in return. Like, for instance, you know, if you go back to the rural area, you know, people would actually go to a certain household, you know, to assist the people, even with the de-owning of cattle, or even with in plowing and so on. But at the end of the day, what do they get? Obviously nothing. You know, the only thing that they get is just food, and as a gesture of appreciation, and that's it. So it's really something that has been there. It's not really a new phenomenon. You know.
I think volunteerism is really important because it lets people do extra work, extra commitments, without really being pushed by money or being pushed by anybody, but from themselves. And usually when people are doing things because they believe in doing something and they're not looking for remunerations, they tend to do it from the heart, and they tend to do it without any grudges or any complaints, and as such, you get better results.
Basically, the reason I volunteer myself was for three things. The first one, because I love my community, I enjoy working with people, and also I enjoy it when I'm helping people. It's also to have a professional business connection.
Volunteerism as being important both to the would-be beneficiary country or institutions, as well as to the person who volunteers.
Before we are human beings, we are spirit beings. And there are things that can satisfy the physical, but can't satisfy the spiritual. So volunteering and giving my time to the poor and giving my time to those who can't afford, for me, it satisfies the spiritual part of me. I find it very fulfilling to be able to give my services. It's actually what I'm doing. It's my daily job. I don't have to get paid all the time, because during the day and during the week I spend most of my time doing it and getting paid. So for me to volunteer my services is just to make sure that I give something back to the community.
because you have been able to help out without expecting anything back. Secondly, it's rewarding to know that through your work, voluntarily, you have been able to save people's lives. I don't think there is anything greater than that.
And obligatory or mandatory to each and every citizen that there is a day set aside in a month for each and every one. If that Saturday is a day of volunteerism, everything comes to a standstill and everybody volunteers.
Thirdly, because you volunteered to work for a certain period of time without being paid or being paid the minimum wage just for you to keep going, shows your commitment to society and gives example to other people to follow. I think when you volunteer, for example, through the UN volunteer system, you actually put back to society what, in a way or the other, has been given to you, and you give example to other people so that they can follow your example. And through that, we build a society that cares, where people care for each other, and hopefully, we should be able to more rapidly achieve the level of development we are looking for, and be able to sustainably build relationships and build a society that for tomorrow that will be, that's what we all aspire for. You can only be a leader if you are prepared to do some work without expecting to be paid for it. Dealing with people's health requires a lot of volunteering and being able to give yourself for the good of other people.
I see volunteers playing a very crucial role. Crucial in terms of they can play a role as partners to government because they reach further down where government may not reach. Not because government does not want to reach there, it's because government does not have the resources to reach down there. But if you have a volunteer who can reach down there, can become a partner to government. And I think that can be a contributing factor because this person is helping other people in terms not only of personal benefit but also helping the government to reach down.
It's just I just wanted to share my experience, beyond the borders of my country. So, and also get some more international exposure and also share other people's culture.
Spiritual, satisfaction. This is very important. What is volunteer spirit? This is my opinion. This is a passion, enthusiasm to do everything.
We've got to change the perception, especially within the Namibian minds, that people perceive being volunteer is. And should we change that? Should we get more people ready to volunteer at that time? Because there is nothing else that we need in order to develop the skills, time, and put all this to work. Imagine if there are people that are ready to volunteer their skills and time, which is what we need. And the biggest problem that we have, which is of unemployment, is because people need to be paid. And if we have people that are ready not to be paid, but the work will be done, so development will be realized. So if we all have to realize this at one or another time, we will get more people that will volunteer their time and skills. So things will be happening, development will come, jobs will be created for those that are unemployed. So I pray that we should do more and more and more advocacy just to change the perception and to get the people's mind.
The program officer, Mr. Obed, came up with an initiative that us as UNDP staff, we need to contribute as well to volunteerism. And then he came up with the concept of if we were to provide just 1 hour of our effort, of our time to volunteerism, then we will actually advance better the courses for development. So the 1 hour for development was then proposed. I particularly like the approach because one of my passions is actually to work with youth, to build their capacity, to train them, as well as to share with them. So as part of the 1 hour for development, I worked with the managing director of PricewaterhouseCoopers to give some leadership training to some of the accounting society students. I started it last year, although my contribution started back then, but as part of the 1 hour for development, I started it last year. Specifically this year, I did 1 hour, although it ended up becoming 3 hours, a training with the University of Namibia, Geography, 4th year students on the Matrato environmental agreements. They can volunteer. It gives them an inward satisfaction and it contributes to the Namibia government efforts to actually develop but to provide awareness, education and public information. And already, if you are on holiday in your village, it does not cost you much except your willingness and your attitude to share, to volunteer. And it is very, very worth as a cause. Why? Because the reward you get, it may not be monetary, it may not be a certificate, but looking back, if I check now some of the students that I share my training with, and they come back and say, do you know what, Miss Martha? I'm now doing my research, I'm now employed well. And do you remember that I was part of that volunteer or of that course that you gave us? Then I'm like, wow, I'm glad. Tell me what you are doing. And then some of them are doing very well.
1 hour for development. And in that regard, we have been able to link up with one of the schools nearby, St. George's. It's a private school, and we engaged young students from grade 11 and grade 12 to actually find out what can they do to volunteer their services. And in that regard, they were able to do community work and community service through that volunteering program. We were able to mentor them also in terms of organizing themselves as a volunteer group within a school. And this, we've seen it has had a rollover effect to another school that was engaged this year, which is Amazing Kids.
It's always good to volunteer when you have the skills. What we have seen of late is that, you know, if I'm a matriculant dropout, if I've just completed my grade 12 and I felt going to volunteering, it may not really serve the purpose. It's always good when you have the right skills, when you have your certificate, you know, an organization will absorb you as a volunteer. You know, that in actual fact, you know, builds the skills.
Say that I don't think there's anybody now in the world or in the history of the world that has amounted to anything or to any position of significance that hasn't volunteered themselves. There is no professional athlete in the world, for example, that didn't start out by first engaging in sports as a hobby, for example. And maybe by doing that also helping out other kids and promoting sports in their communities. And then they become superstars. I don't think there's any political leader in the world or in history that has not started out by being a community activist or by responding to a challenge in your community. When Bill Gates first started Microsoft, you know, it started as a little project in his garage that he thought was exciting. So he dedicated his time. There wasn't anything coming in for him, but eventually, you know, all of these things grow to become something significant. So it's very important as a young person, if you're considering volunteering, to take that step. Not only will it amount into more opportunities for you, but it also helps you to develop character. It helps you to develop and nurture your talent. And it definitely leads to other opportunities, it leads you to new networks, it leads you to new people that you meet, and you never know where you may end up.
Volunteerism, I think, should not only from government volunteers, but I think it should be made like a policy. There are countries, for example, who have made volunteerism an obligatory or mandatory to each and every citizen, that there is a day set aside in a month for each and every one. If that Saturday is a day of volunteerism, everything comes to a standstill and everybody volunteers. I will possibly tell this person, it is good to volunteer because it gives you pleasure to help one person to be happy as you are. It gives you a feel of what that person is going through. You become sort of compassionate. And I would possibly advise also at government level that this must become an activity that can be integrated in school activities, so the children at the young age start learning the importance of volunteering.
And countries like the United States, like Switzerland, where actually volunteerism does contribute a significant portion of their GDP because of the not only support to productivity, but support to generating incomes, but also in terms of support to offsetting costs that would have been incurred if those were costed. And I think United States is one good example where volunteerism, where the spirit of giving, spirit of helping each other is, manifests itself in the most evident way. Switzerland and many other developed countries are actually benefiting from the spirit of volunteerism. From people of all ages, from the young who are coming from school, to the old who are retired, who wants to dedicate their time to do good, to help societies, and to help. It exposes you to different experiences and different cultures. When you are in your own country, you don't appreciate the greater world that is out there. So if you volunteer, it exposes different cultures, different experiences. So it builds you as a human being. Certainly, when you go there, the people you meet also impact some knowledge to you. So you also gain, some knowledge by volunteering. But most importantly, by working in hands-on, you also gain very valuable experiences. So it does benefit you, apart from the redeeming value of it building character of a person, who is willing to share, to be selfless, and to